What if your first love wasn't lost, just delayed? In Before We Knew, two people who once shared a fleeting but unforgettable summer romance now live parallel lives in the same city, unaware they found their way back to each other. Years after their goodbye, fate has brought them close again, but it'll take more than chance for them to realize what's been there all along. A gentle, slow burn romance about timing, missed chances, and finding your way back to the person you never stopped hoping for. Before We Knew. A story by 10 Chapters Studio. Chapter 1. One Summer, Two Stories. Ava. Now. The rain was light but persistent. Soft enough to walk through, annoying enough to regret it. Ava tucked her chin into the collar of her coat and picked up her pace along the sidewalk, dodging puddles like a city dweller born and raised. She wasn't, of course. Philadelphia wasn't home. Not really. But it had been for the past 4 years, and some days, like this one, it almost felt like it could be. She glanced up as the streetcar rattled past on Queen Street, its lights casting warm reflections across the wet pavement. Somewhere between the bookstore and the cafe where she spent too much money, Ava paused at a familiar crosswalk and pressed the button, barely noticing the world around her. Except the man walking by. A glance, nothing more. Brown hair, black jacket, tall. Not him. It never was. She didn't know why her brain still did that. Picked strangers out of a crowd and asked, could it be him? As if one summer romance from over a decade ago could sneak up on her on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Ridiculous. She crossed the street and kept walking. Theo. Now. Theo sat on the steps of the old public library, earbuds in, but no music playing. He liked the illusion of being unavailable. It let him observe without being observed. Across the street, a woman with a green coat and rain-damp hair passed by, stepping neatly around a puddle. He watched her for a second too long, not because she was beautiful, though she was, but because something about her posture, the way she moved, flickered across his memory like static. Then she was gone, and the moment passed. He glanced at the time. Too early for his shift, too late to go home. He stood, brushed off his jeans, and walked toward the subway. Ava, then. It had been a blisteringly hot July in Florence. Ava was 16, wide-eyed and sunburnt, lugging a camera bag too heavy for her shoulder. She'd been chosen for a short summer exchange, a language and culture program where they paired American teens with students from across Europe. She'd been matched with a host family just outside Florence. Theo was British. Quiet. Smart, assigned to the same art history group. He always stood at the edge of crowds and scribbled in a sketchbook. She liked that about him. They started sitting next to each other on the tour bus, talking about the heat, the guide's bad jokes, favorite books. And just like that, the whole summer tilted around him. Theo, then. She'd worn a red scarf in her hair the day they met. Ava, American, laughed too easily, asked a million questions, and yet somehow she listened more than anyone else he'd ever met. They weren't supposed to fall in love, not really. It wasn't long enough. But on the last night, while everyone else was at the group dinner, they'd sat by the river instead, shared headphones, her head on his shoulder. She kissed him like she already knew it had to end. And it did. No numbers, no email, no promises. Just a page torn from his sketchbook with her name written in ink. Ava, now. The barista called her name, and Ava blinked back into the present. She took her coffee and slid into the corner seat at the window. Her laptop booted up slowly, as always. Outside, the street blurred in soft gray lines, streaked by lights and movement. 10 years. 10 years since Florence, since Theo. She didn't even know if he had gone back to England. Maybe he was married now. Maybe he didn't even remember her. But she remembered him. Every year when summer rolled around and the air turned thick with heat, he came back like a song she hadn't heard in a while. And sometimes, only sometimes, she still listened for him. Theo, now. The train pulled into the station with its usual screech, and Theo stepped on without thinking. He took the middle seat, leaned back, and closed his eyes. A flash of red passed the window, a scarf maybe, or a coat. He wasn't sure. It didn't matter. He wasn't looking for her, but some part of him was still waiting. Chapter 2. Close Enough to Miss. Ava. The art gallery was tucked between a wellness studio and a bakery that always smelled like burnt sugar. Ava had walked past it a dozen times without noticing. Now, she stood outside the black-framed glass door with her laptop bag over one shoulder and a to-go coffee warming her fingers. Inside, a tall woman with silver-streaked curls greeted her. "You must be Ava Walker. I'm Lizette. Come in. We're still a bit of a mess." The place smelled like paint and varnish, the floors scattered with tools and tarps. In the center of the room stood the bones of what would soon be an exhibit, a series of photo installations featuring immigrant stories and found family. It was the kind of work Ava loved, real, grounded. Lizette handed her a portfolio folder. "We just need captions and a bit of story copy for each piece. Nothing flashy, clean, emotional. You'll be working upstairs in the office for now. We've got contractors downstairs finishing up." Ava followed her through the gallery and up a narrow staircase, the thud of hammers echoing from below. "Contractors?" Ava asked. "How long will they be here?" Lizette waved a hand. "A week, maybe 2. Theo. His back ached, his shirt stuck to his skin, and the trim he'd just measured was somehow still the wrong size. He blew out a breath, stepped away from the wall, and ran a hand through his hair. He wasn't even supposed to be on this job. His friend Aaron had asked him to sub in for a few days while the regular guy was out with a broken ankle. It was basic work, fixing floorboards, framing a new display wall, refinishing some baseboards. Easy enough. Tedious, quiet, which suited Theo just fine. He liked places that felt like transitions, empty rooms, half-finished projects, the before of something. The gallery was like that. Lizette had given him free rein. Come in early, leave late, stay out of the way of the writer upstairs. He hadn't seen her, just heard her. Light footsteps on the floor above, muffled typing, an occasional hum that drifted down the stairwell. Ava. The humming had turned into a habit. She didn't notice she was doing it until she paused and heard footsteps downstairs freeze for a moment, then resume. She smiled to herself. It was oddly comforting, the presence of someone she didn't have to interact with. Still, curiosity got the better of her. One afternoon, she came down to refill her water bottle and caught a glimpse of a man crouched by the gallery's baseboard, sanding it smooth. Brown hair, black t-shirt, forearms dusted with sawdust. He didn't look up, and she didn't interrupt, but something about him tugged at her. Theo. On Thursday, he found a mug sitting on the edge of the counter in the staff kitchenette. It read, "I believe in soft things, slow mornings, handwritten notes, and second chances." It made him smile. By Friday, there was a note stuck beside it in careful handwriting. "If you break this, you owe me a cinnamon roll. Dash A." He didn't know who A was for sure, but he had a good guess. Still, he didn't write back. Not yet. Ava. That weekend, Ava found herself thinking about the man downstairs. She didn't know his name, hadn't even seen his face properly, but there was something quietly magnetic about him. Maybe it was the way he moved. Focused, precise, like he was fixing more than just wood. Maybe it was that she felt seen, even if he hadn't looked at her directly. Theo. Theo finished the wall framing by late afternoon, wiping sweat from his neck as he packed up his tools. From the corner of his eye, he noticed a photograph pinned to the gallery corkboard. It showed a woman standing in a field, laughing, wind catching the hem of her dress. He didn't recognize her. Not really. But something about the tilt of her head, the way her shoulders curved mid-laughter, it stirred something. Chapter 3. The Drop. Ava. By Monday, the gallery smelled like orange oil and rain-damp coats. Ava balanced a laptop, her notebook, and a camera as she nudged the office door open with her hip. Lizette had asked for a tighter caption on the photo of a father braiding his daughter's hair. Less clever, more feeling, she'd said, and Ava was eager to fix it before the afternoon walkthrough. She took the first 2 steps down the staircase and her notebook slid. It bumped once, twice, then spun like a coin and clattered to the floor below, pages fanning open. No. She half-jogged the rest of the way, cheeks heating. The contractor was kneeling by the display wall, a pencil tucked behind one ear, a level in his hand. He turned at the sound, quick and instinctive. "Careful," he said, lowering his voice. The word landed in my chest, softly, but with weight. A familiar cadence, like a song you can't place and suddenly desperately need to hear to the end. "Sorry," I said, breathless and embarrassed. I crouched, reaching for the notebook at the same time he did. Our fingers brushed the cardboard cover. "Got it," he said, spoken softly, just loud enough to hear. Ava looked up. Brown hair, gray eyes, not quite blue, the kind of face that looks kinder the longer you look. The gallery buzzed. Sander, rain, someone laughing in the back room, but the sound tunneled away for a second. Her throat tightened. She smiled to steady herself. "Thank you." He handed the notebook back, his eyes flicking across the open page first, where a small sketch of a riverside bridge sat in the corner. A quick line drawing she'd made the night before while thinking through captions. 2 arches, a rail, lazy water. "Nice," he said. "Just a doodle." I shut the notebook a little too quickly. "I'm Ava." He hesitated, as if testing the shape of the moment in his mouth. "I'm..." "Hey, you two," Lizette's voice sliced down the stairwell. "Can someone grab the delivery? The courier's double parked." The contractor straightened, his gaze breaking. "I've got it." He walked off toward the front, long strides efficient, leaving sawdust eddies in his wake. Ava exhaled, almost whispering to herself, Okay, why?" She rose, clutching the notebook, and flipped it open again as if the quick sketch would explain the tremor under her skin. The bridge was no one's bridge, really, just an old habit of drawing rails and water when she needed calm. But the way he'd looked at it, like he recognized it. She closed the notebook and followed the smell of rain toward the front desk. On the sidewalk, the courier thrust a clipboard at Theo, muttering about tickets. Theo signed, slid the Galleron's package onto a dolly, and rolled it inside. The door chimed and shut out the gray. "Careful," he'd said, and the word had carried him backward 10 years. He set the package by the desk and stood still for a beat, hands on the dolly handle. The woman, Ava, had eyes like the first 5 minutes of a thunderstorm, bright and concentrated. When their fingers touched the notebook, a small, stupid spark had jumped from skin to breath. Ridiculous. He drew the pencil from behind his ear and tucked it into his pocket. "Don't be a fool," he told himself. People look like other people, voices echo, bridges repeat themselves in cities and in heads. He'd seen the sketch. A bridge, a lazy line of water, and something in his chest had changed key. He looked toward the stairs. She wasn't there. Theo swallowed, annoyed at the tightness in his throat. He grabbed the level, the sander, the world's most patient tape measure, and returned to the display wall. The line of the baseboards steadied him. The pencil tick marks said nothing except what they meant. "Everything okay?" Lizette asked, breezing past with a stapled packet. "Yeah," he said. "Delivery's in. I'll finish the wall by 4. "Brilliant." She tapped the packet. "If you hear the writer cursing, I told her to cut a paragraph she loves." He almost smiled. "That seems cruel." "It is," Lizette said cheerfully and swept away. Theo sanded. The rhythm slowed his thoughts. Dust rose, dust settled. At the edge of the room, the black-framed front door opened again. The weather had shifted brighter. A thin band of sunlight hovered over the threshold like a dare. Ava. She'd rewritten the caption twice and hated them both. The first version tried too hard. The second was a whisper that would get swallowed by the room. Ava braced her hands on the office desk and stared out the small window. Below, the contractor worked in steady lines. She told herself she was watching for dust so she knew when not to come down. She came down anyway. At the foot of the stairs, she paused. "Hey, about the mug the other day. If it breaks, I'm still charging you a cinnamon roll from the bakery next door. They're lethal." His mouth tipped. "Then I'll try not to owe you one." "You're not local," she said before she could stop herself. "Your accent." "London, mostly." "Nice," she said, and immediately wanted to roll her eyes at herself. Nice. But why she? 13? He set the sander down. "You?" "Ohio," she said, and then, because she always felt like she had to explain, "But I've been here a few years." He nodded. The kind of nod that says, "I see you," without claiming to understand. A small silence. Not uncomfortable. Something like the space before a camera shutter clicks. She lifted her notebook. Would you mind if I take a photo of your work in progress for the gallery's social? Hands and tools, nothing identifiable." "Sure," he said. She stepped closer, careful of the cord, and crouched. His hands were steady, sure, flecked with sawdust. The level lay like a horizon. She raised the camera and, "Hold that. Perfect," she said, her voice trembling just enough to betray her. Click. He glanced at her, quick, almost shy, and she dropped the camera, laughing under her breath. "Sorry, I forgot the flash was off." "It's better without," he said, and something about the way he said "better" curled through her. "Right," she said. "Thanks. I'll Stop interrupting. You can interrupt, he said, and then seemed to hear himself. I mean, if you need something for the copy. For the copy, she echoed, smiling. From the back room, Lizette called out, Theo, could you... Ava froze. Theo. The name struck the air like a bell, bright and undeniable. He turned toward Lizette's voice, easy, familiar, like someone who had answered to that name his whole life. Ava's fingers tightened around the notebook. Theo, she said, almost whispering. He looked back at her. Chapter 4. What We Don't Say Out Loud. Ava. The name touched something she hadn't looked at in years. Theo? She tried again, almost whispering, like testing a step before she put her weight on it. He paused the sander with a thumb tap. Dust settled between them. That's me, he said, lowering his voice. Did you ever do one of those summer exchange things? She asked, keeping her eyes on the notebook he'd just handed back. Italy. Ages ago. A tiny shift in his face, like a door easing open on old hinges. I did, he said. Florence. Heat moved through her. Private, unshowy. I thought so. A breath. There was a boy who drew. You used to stand a little apart when the group got loud. He watched her, careful. And there was a girl who asked the guide too many questions and wrote on the corners when the margins ran out. And the one I kissed on a river wall, she thought, and did not say. The gallery breathed around them. Staples, footsteps, somewhere a laugh. It was nothing, and it was everything. She shifted the notebook to her ribs. I'm mid-deadline upstairs, she said, keeping her voice steady because her hands weren't. Would you, later, coffee? The bakery next door. Say, 3? His relief showed only in the way his shoulders let go of something. 3 works. Okay. She nearly said more, then didn't. I'll see you then. From the back, Lizette called, Theo, can I steal you for a clamp? He lifted a hand in answer. Ava started for the stairs, legs remembering how to be useful. Halfway up, her phone buzzed with a client name she couldn't ignore. She took the call under the office window, said the competent things, then set the phone face down and pressed her palm to her sternum like she could guide her heart back into an even tempo. 3 o'clock. She could work toward that. Theo. The clamp was easy. The feeling in his chest wasn't. He lined the frame corner with the kind of precision he saved for things that could crack if he lied to them. Everything all right? Lizette asked, casual as she dug through a drawer of hanging wire. Yep, he said, and it came out too quick. He tried again, softer. All good. She glanced up, amused, but not unkind. If you need 20 minutes later, take them. We lock at 6. Thanks, he said. 3 o'clock. I'll be back by 4. She nodded, already somewhere else in her head, which was a mercy. Mind the new paint when you go. He returned to the wall and found his hands had gone too careful. He made them clean again. Measure, mark, cut, until the room stopped feeling like a bell. A memory arrived without being asked for. Warm stone under his palms, scooters whining like insects, a girl with a red scarf in her hair asking a question the guide didn't have an answer for. He didn't chase the rest of it. He let it sit and didn't turn it into a speech. His phone buzzed. Aaron, need you at the north site tomorrow. 2-week contract. Good pay. Theo stared at the text for a beat, then put the phone face down on the work table and drew a small circle in the dust with one knuckle. Tomorrow could be complicated. Today had a 3 o'clock. He checked the time. 2 hours and change. Enough to finish the baseboard and pretend he wasn't counting. Ava. Upstairs, the caption she'd been avoiding became briefly cooperative. She stripped a line until it told the truth and let it stand. She tried not to think about how the word Florence had changed the temperature in her body by a few degrees. She tried not to write the story for him, for them. She opened her notebook and, without meaning to, sketched a rail and a curve of water in the corner. Not a real bridge, just the suggestion of one. Were you the boy who drew, she thought? Were you the one who kept his distance until he didn't? She didn't need the answer out loud. She just needed 3 o'clock to arrive at the pace of an ordinary hour. Her phone vibrated again. The client wanted a sentence moved and then moved back. She obliged with the detached grace of someone who had found a better thing to be nervous about. At 2:47, she stood, smoothed her shirt, and told herself to stop smoothing her shirt. She closed the laptop and took the stairs like a person with an appointment, not a pilgrimage. Theo wiped the last line of dust from the floor with the side of his hand and stepped back. The wall looked like it had always been there. He liked when work did that. Disappeared into the room as if the room had wanted it that way. He washed up in the tiny sink, dried his hands on a disposable towel, and stared at himself for a second longer than was useful. "Don't make it a myth," he told the mirror. "Just be on time." On his way past the front desk, Lizette called without looking up. "Bring me a cinnamon roll, or your absence will be noted." He found a smile. Noted. At exactly 3, the bell chimed. They took the corner table by the window. The glass held Queen Street like a muted aquarium. Steam curled off their cups, giving them something to watch that wasn't each other. At first, they orbited harmless topics: the weather, the gallery's opening, the wobble in their little table. She smoothed her cup sleeve. He squared his spoon with the saucer. Their voices were a notch too polite, then eased, the talk slipping off the room's safe edges into banter that felt like a private joke neither named. Something loosened. The rhythm came back like muscle memory. She learned he rents a small place above a bike repair shop and keeps a sketchbook in every jacket. He was surprised that she still writes by hand first, index cards banded in her bag, then types. He learned he takes set carpentry gigs when the theater calls, fills the rest with galleries and odd jobs, and sometimes switches to nights when a site is behind. She learned she freelances for museums and galleries, picks up documentary projects when they have a spine, and lives near Queen Street. They didn't say Florence. They didn't ask why didn't we. They stayed in the present and let it hold. When the cups were empty, neither of them wanted to sit still. "Walk?" she asked, not quite meeting his eyes. "Yeah," he said, already standing. They pushed the door open together. The afternoon felt like it had decided something on their behalf. Chapter 5. The Truth We Owe. They didn't waste the afternoon. After coffee, they walked without a plan, past the trolley stops and record shops, cutting through a small park where children launched paper boats into a puddle like a fleet. The rain had rinsed the air clean. Every corner threw them some small mercy: a busker playing something easy, a bookstore door yawning open, the buttery smell of the bakery trailing them like a ribbon. "Do you ever miss it?" Ava asked as they drifted into the bookstore. "Drawing for drawing's sake?" Theo traced a finger along the spine of a paperback, then picked it up and turned it over. "Never stopped. Work just steals the best light. I draw at night." "People or buildings?" "Both," he said. "People are harder. They move." She laughed. "Buildings too, only slower." They found an old listening station in the back, headphones hanging like a museum exhibit. "Cheesy," she warned. "A bit," he said, smiling. She lifted one set, offered an ear to him without comment, and they stood close in the little hush the headphones made. They clicked through whatever the store had looted, odds and ends, a few familiar openings. "Do we dare play something old?" she asked, almost whispering. "We dare," he said. When a guitar line threaded in from some buried corner, they both went still. He didn't look at her. She didn't look at him. The chorus hit soft and left softer. When they came back into the afternoon, the sun had pushed through in tactical beams. Ava felt buoyant and oddly fragile, like a glass held at the perfect balance point. They cut east toward the water. A pedestrian bridge arched over the street. They climbed it without talking. From the top, the city drifted in layers: trees, brick, glass, sky. A cyclist rang a bell behind them and zoomed past. She rested her forearms on the railing and let the quiet stretch. "I should tell you something, from Florence." The words tasted like a penny, metallic and small. He leaned beside her, shoulder to shoulder, looking out instead of at her. "Okay. I told you that I didn't have anything complicated waiting at home. That I was clean, I think I said. Which is a stupid word for a person." A breeze moved her hair. She tucked it behind her ear. "I did have something. Not serious. A boyfriend I hadn't had the courage to break up with properly. We were already ending, but it was there." She swallowed. "It felt wrong to ask for your details when I'd been untidy with the truth. So I made this rule about no contact, like a cowardly absolution. I'm sorry." He was quiet long enough for the traffic below to go from a hum to a sentence. She wanted to pull the words back and rewrap them prettier, kinder, less sharp. He was quiet. "That explains a few things," he said, finally. "I thought I'd done something to make it too much." "You didn't," she said quickly. "You were the good part, the clean part." She winced. "There I go again, using that word." He breathed out, a small laugh with nothing funny in it. "Were you in love with him?" "No. I didn't know what love was yet." Another quiet beat. Then, softly, "Me neither." She risked a look. The edge had left his mouth. The line between his brows had loosened. He was not turned away. "I should tell you something, too," he said, lowering his voice. "I lied, a little, by omission. That last night, after you left, I wrote my email on the back of the page with your name." His hand hovered, remembering. "I almost folded it into your passport. Then I tore the corner off and threw it away." She blinked. "Why?" He said, "I thought if you wanted it, you would have asked." He sounded like a boy and a man at once. They leaned there, two confessions setting the planks even under their feet. "Okay," she said, a breathy laugh. "We were spectacularly young. And incredibly dramatic," he added. "Some things never change." He turned, finally, and looked at her straight. The city went out of focus at the edges. "Some do," he said. The moment held. A small wind pressed at them. Ava felt the gravity of now, how it eclipsed and illuminated what came before. She didn't move closer. He didn't either. The not kiss felt electric in its restraint. His phone buzzed. He glanced down. The tightness returned to his mouth. "It's Aaron," he said, "the site manager." He read, then exhaled. "They want me to start tonight. They're behind. If I take it, I leave the gallery early, maybe right now. The bridge shifted under her feet, though it didn't. How long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. She nodded once. It felt like choosing how to hold a delicate thing. We have this afternoon, she said, willing steadiness into her words. And we can have after, if we want it. Phones exist. We're not 19. He smiled, real, a little wrecked. No, he said. We're not. They exchanged numbers. The simple act felt like a new foundation built on something old that had finally proved it could bear weight. Walk me back, she said. I have to send Lizette a draft before 5. They climbed down, their steps sinking without effort. At the base of the bridge, a mural stretched across a brick wall, a line of lyrics stenciled in small type. I want to hurry home to you. She pointed, laughing softly. Okay, that's a bit on the nose. He said, good omen. They crossed toward the gallery. At the door, he paused. I'll text when I'm done packing up. Okay, she said. I'll be at my desk, pretending to write. Pretending's a good start. He reached past her to open the door. His hand brushed the small of her back, barely there, deliberate enough to count. She stepped inside, the bell chiming, and froze. Lizette stood at the front desk with a woman in a smart blazer and a laminated badge. Ava, Lizette said, bright but tense. The feature's been approved if you can travel for 2 weeks starting tomorrow morning. Ava's stomach dropped and climbed at once. Tomorrow? Yes, Maureen said briskly. We'd need your decision by 6. Ava felt the seconds stretch thin between her and Theo, like wire. Behind her, he said quietly, 2 weeks? She turned to him. 2 weeks, she said. Chapter 6. Timing rewritten. Ava. 6 o'clock felt like a finish line and a cliff. Can I have until 8? Ava asked. I can hold Maureen until then, Lizette said, hands braced on the desk. 2 weeks on the road is good for your name, Ava. Ava nodded, aware of Theo just behind her, present like warmth. Decide bravely, Lizette said. Outside, the rain had resigned itself to mist. I texted, Can we talk? Bridge at 7:30? 3 dots flickered, then, yes, 7:30. She worked upstairs with the discipline of someone treading water. She tightened the captions, trimmed a sentence she loved, then another. At 7:12, she saved, sent, and shut the laptop. Her hands shook as she grabbed her coat. Lizette caught her at the stairs. Whatever you choose, she said, spoken softly, just loud enough to hear. Choose it like it's already yours. Ava smiled, grateful, and slipped out into the evening. The pedestrian bridge arched clean against a rinsed sky. A busker tuned a guitar at the base. Kids ran up and down like elevator buttons. I climbed and stood at the crest, facing the city. The first streetlights flicked on in sequence, a slow zipper. 7:30. I pressed my palms to the rail. Someone laughed below. A cyclist skimmed past. My phone buzzed in my pocket, Maureen probably. I didn't look. 7:36. I chewed the inside of my cheek and finally checked. Need passport details by 8 or we lose booking. Can you come by office? I typed back with thumbs that wanted to be steady. I'll send photos. Give me 10. 7:43. I texted Theo, running to send docs, still here. The message sent green, not blue. I frowned. Signal hiccup. 7:47. The busker started a song that was almost, but not exactly, the one from the bookstore.
It made my chest tight. I waited until 7:51, then forced myself down the stairs, telling the evening, "I'll be back."
Theo. He shouldn't have let Aaron talk him into a quick walkthrough. Quick had turned into a safety briefing, a late delivery that boxed in his van, and his phone battery sliding toward black. At 7:18, he texted, "Might be a few late, still coming." At 7:24, his screen dimmed to 5%. He killed it to save the last breath. He was free by 7:58, van grumbling south. The pedestrian bridge near the gallery came into view at 8:07, and so did Drubble. Orange cones and sawhorse barricades blocked both ramps. Laminated filming notice signs flapped on rope lines. A production assistant in a neon vest lifted a hand. "Lock up for continuity, no foot traffic while we're rolling," she called, walkie at her shoulder. "We're in a 30-minute hold." "I'm meeting someone at the top," he started. "Next release is 8:30, she said, already turning to her radio. "You can wait by the rope, but nobody crosses until then." It wasn't his site. A commercial crew had the city permit to freeze the bridge. His phone was dead. If he waited, the window would open too late, and she'd have to leave for the museum. He looked up anyway, willing the crest to conjure her. From the street, the span cut the dusk like a sentence with its middle missing. He pivoted, jogged the block to the gallery, tore a sheet from his notebook, and sketched 2 quick arcs over a slice of water. He wrote, "I was here. Bridge locked for filming. 9 a.m. at the bakery? Theo," and slid the paper under the door as gently as if he were setting down sleep. Ava. The museum office smelled like coffee and toner and deadlines. Maureen was brisk, but not unkind. 2 weeks, quick flights, tight schedule. You'll be with a small team, lodging covered. It's a good feature. Ava photographed her passport, sent it, and promised to drop by again at 9 for a packet. At 8:28, she stepped back onto the sidewalk, hope and dread miscounting together. The neon-vested PA unhooked a pylon. "We're done. Back to chaos tomorrow." She climbed. The crest was empty, save for the warm scrape of the busker's voice. She stood a long minute anyway, almost whispering to no one, "I was here." She went back to the gallery. It was dark and locked. Lizette had already closed up, and Ava didn't have a key. No silhouette moved inside. Only the green exit sign glowed. A sheet of paper lay just past the threshold, out of reach, edges lifting in the draft under the door. She pressed her hands to the glass, caught the hint of 2 pencil arcs, and let the handle go. He had been here. The meeting window was gone, and she still had a bag to pack and an early stop at the museum. She turned and walked back along Queen Street toward home. "Tomorrow," she said. He jogged back to his van and drove home to his small place above the bike repair shop. In the kitchen, he dug his charger out from under a tangle of mail and pencils and plugged it into the outlet by the stove. He dropped his keys in the ceramic bowl, toed off his boots, and wiped a coffee ring from the counter while the battery grudges its way back to life. At 9:12, his screen woke. 1 failed message from earlier, 1 from Ava, running to send docs, still here. He swore, lowering his voice like that could slow the evening. He typed, "I was there, filming lockup, left you a note at the gallery. 9 a.m. bakery?" The bubble hung, then went through. Sleep was rumor. He packed tools, pulled clothes into a duffel, and set 2 alarms. At 2:13, he woke again and reread her last text, as if new meaning might surface if he loved it hard enough. It didn't. He tried closing his eyes on a picture of her at the bridge.
hands on the rail, the city breathing around her like a patient thing. She didn't sleep so much as drift. At 5:20 a.m., the city looked arranged by someone too tender to wake it. She tossed jeans, headphones, and a sweater into a carry-on, then went back to the gallery on instinct. The note had slid further under the door overnight, just beyond reach. She kneeled, arm flattened against the threshold, fingers grazing air. A text flashed. 9 a.m. bakery? She breathed something between a laugh and a sob. Yes, she typed. Yes. At 7:10, the museum called. Could you come earlier? Flight moved. Ava stared at the time. The bakery door in her mind, the bell, the note, 2 clocks arguing. She typed to Theo. Airport moved me early. I'm sorry. I'll try to swing by before security. If not, call me tonight. At 7:34, she stood in the security line, shoes in a bin, laptop at the bottom of a gray tub. Her phone pulsed in her palm. No new messages. A gate agent smiled mechanically and waved the line forward. Ava looked back once, toward a city she had only just learned how to stay in, and whispered, "Don't let this be the same story."
Chapter 7. A Line a Day. Theo. At 9:03, the bakery bell chimed, bright as a coin on tile. Theo ordered 2 Americanos and pointed at the cinnamon rolls. If one accidentally breaks, he said to the cashier, I owe someone. She grinned. We can make accidents happen. He took the corner table by the window, the same one as yesterday, and set his phone face up. Outside, Queen Street moved like a river pretending to be a road. He checked his messages again. One from Ava, hours ago. Airport moved me early. I'm sorry. I'll try to swing by before security. If not, call me tonight. He read it twice, then a third time, as if repetition could widen the time between the words. At 9:12, he called anyway. It rang once, then the line went soft. He left a voicemail, lowering his voice like the call required reverence. Hey, it's me. I was at the bridge, filming. I'm at the bakery now. 2 coffees, 1 IOU. Safe flight. Call when you land, even if it's late. No disappearing this time. Yeah? He lingered 5 more minutes, then slid a 10 under the saucer and took 1 coffee to go. On the sidewalk, he hesitated, gallery or site. He chose the site because rent had a way of voting first. The van smelled like hot dust and cedar. He drove north, the city shifting into grid and sky. Ava. The plane bumped like a shrug as it taxied. Ava tucked her bag under the seat and pressed her phone to her ear, almost whispering to the window. Please pick up. Hello? Theo's voice arrived rough, surprised, like a light coming on in an empty room. Her breath left her. Hi, she said, smiling without meaning to. They're about to take my phone hostage. I wanted to hear you first. I'm on the Roosevelt site. It's loud. I might only have a minute. Me too, she said, and suddenly there were 1,000 important things and no time to say them. Okay, let's not be 19 about this. I don't want to leave it to luck. Agreed, he said, and she could hear the relief like a hand unclenching. So, rules? Not rules. Promises we can keep. She watched a ground crewman gesture a choreography she would never learn. 1. No vanishing. If something shifts, flights, jobs, whatever, we say so.
2. A daily check-in. 10 p.m. my time or yours? 10 yours, quickly. I'll make it work. 3. She added, heart thudding at her own boldness. A trade. You send me a sketch every day. Any bridge. I'll send a line, a caption, a sentence. Meet in the middle. He went quiet just long enough to make her wonder if she'd asked for too much. That sounds like us, he said, spoken softly. Deal. A flight attendant's voice threaded the aisle. Phones off, please. Ava swallowed. Tell me one true thing before I go. Her voice trembling. He didn't hesitate. I wasn't ready then. I am now. She closed her eyes. Me too. A breath. Call you when I land. The line clicked away. The plane carried her forward.
Theo stood in the site's skeleton belly, between a stack of drywall and a window that didn't exist yet, and let his phone sit in his palm like a small, warm fact. 10 o'clock, a sketch a day. The simplicity steadied him. Bennett, Aaron shouted from the far bay. You good with nights for 2 weeks? They're pushing to make up time. Theo looked at the ceiling, then at the calendar in his head. 10 p.m. became a moving target. What hours? 62. He was already nodding. Money solved a lot of things. Not all, but enough to make choices. I'll make it work. I just need 10 minutes around 10. Aaron raised an eyebrow. Hot date? Something like that, Theo said, and felt the ridiculous adolescent pleasure of telling the truth without telling everything. On his coffee break, he flipped open his notebook and sketched the bridge from memory. Not the one from Florence, but the low stone arch over the canal by Queen, where the bakery light skims the water in strips. 2 quick lines, a smudge for reflection. He snapped a photo and drafted a text. Bridge 1, Queen, at morning. He didn't send it. He wanted the first to arrive when she landed. At 9:57 p.m., he stepped outside into the cold slice of night and called. It rang and rang. Voicemail. He spoke into the dark. I'm here. Night's now, so I may sound like a forklift when I answer. I drew you a bridge. He hung up, suddenly shy, and finally sent the photo. The wheels hit tarmac and the cabin clapped like they always do, relief pretending to be celebration. Ava waited for the aisle to inch forward and turned her phone on. It lit like a small sky. 1 voicemail, 1 photo. She opened the photo first. Pencil lines, quick and sure. A shallow arch. A stitched shadow of water. The caption, Bridge 1, Queen, at morning. She pressed the image to her chest like it could warm through plastic. The voicemail came next. I drew you a bridge. His voice made the world suddenly specific. In the car to the hotel, the team chattered about shot lists and approvals. Ava stared out the window and typed her line to meet his drawing. 2 lines, leaning toward a crossing, not knowing yet they will hold. She sent it before she could talk herself into cleverness. Her phone buzzed immediately. Perfect. Then, a second later, You landed okay? Yes, she typed. Long day tomorrow. I'll steal 10 at 10. A museum coordinator slid into the seat beside her with a packet. You're on interviews most of the week, she said. Day 14, we swing back through Philly for B-roll on the Market Street Bridge. Tight window. She read it twice. Day 14, Philadelphia. A piece of the future clicked a half degree to the right. Noted, she said, keeping her smile small. At 10:07, she ducked into the hotel stairwell and called. It went to voicemail.
She left the sound of her breath between words. I'm here. Daily line rule holds. Also, the schedule says we're back in Philly at the Market Street Bridge on day 14. If you happen to be at 6, I'll be there too. She paused, then added, almost whispering, don't worry if you can't. Just don't disappear. Back in her room, she plugged in her phone and looked at the ceiling until the day blurred. A minute before she took her, the screen lit. Can do nights. Can do bridges. Won't do disappearing. Day 14 sounds like a plan. T. She exhaled into the dark, an ache and a promise sharing one breath.
Chapter 8. The Picture That Pulled Focus. Theo. By day 5, the ritual felt like scaffolding he could trust. He'd step out of the clang, draw fast, bridge 5, iron ribs, shallow water, 2 goals like parentheses, and send a photo with 3 words, because brevity felt like respect. Ava always answered with a line that made his chest untie. Your sketch makes a place for breath. Even steel forgets it's heavy when air does the lifting. Some crossings happen before our feet move. At 10 p.m., he'd call from the edge of the site, lowering his voice against generators. They didn't say much. That was the magic. A day could sit between them without having to perform. He'd followed the gallery's account the day he subbed in, a quiet way to keep track of the install. Late afternoon, on a break, his feed blinked. At Queen Village Gallery, a dim, golden photo from a partner museum's event. The caption read, Spotted Rowan Hale at our partner museum event, enjoying the art and the company. In the photo, Ava was sitting close to him, laughing, head tipped back. A man, the indie singer Theo knew by album covers and cafe playlists, leaned in close, a hand braced on the chair back behind her. The lens caught the angle that makes proximity look like intimacy. For a second, Theo felt something in his ribs fold up like a pocket knife. He told himself to be reasonable. People take pictures. Captions are jokes with emojis. The world is not an attack. He thumbed back to his messages, to the small square of pencil lines he'd just sent. Bridge 8. After rain. No reply yet. He put the phone face down and told himself not to build architecture out of a snapshot. Ava. Airports bled into each other. Same carpet, new skyline. The team moved like weather. Arrive, set up, listen, leave. Ava kept her anchors named. Hot tea, 10 quiet minutes, and the exact second Theo's sketch landed like proof of the day. That evening shoot doubled as a fundraiser. Donors milled under string lights. Volunteers ferried trays like choreography. A publicist ushered a small knot of guests to a photo corner, a poet whose book she loved, a muralist, and Rowan Hale, who'd given a set earlier and now smelled faintly of rain and cologne. He said, You're the writer. They said you're the reason these pictures have spines. She laughed. Team effort. He leaned in, conspiratorial, hand on the chair back behind her, as the counter down. Give me a headline I don't deserve. Try, knows when to respect a boundary, she said, almost whispering, amused and not interested. The camera blinked. Flash. Done. She stepped back a fraction, put polite air between them, and moved on to interview notes. Later, her phone buzzed with Theo's Bridge 8. A shallow arch, water burnished soft. She typed back, honest and ordinary. Your line today is beautiful. I'm stealing the feeling for a caption. The gallery's intern must have been combing tags. At Queen Village Gallery, reposted a version of the shot with a nudge-nudge caption. She didn't even see it yet. Theo.
At 10, he stepped into the alley with his phone, the night thick with generator hum. The image had moved from post to loop in his head. He hated that about himself, that he could be generous all day and jealous in a breath. He called. She answered on the second ring, voice warm enough to make him feel petty. "How's the sight?" she asked. "Loud," he said, smiling anyway. "How's the party?"
"Overdecorated, underfed, good people," she said. "A singer tried to recruit me for a quick tagline."
Ah. He made his tone neutral and not quite managed it. She heard it. He knew she did. A small frown creased her next word. "You okay?" "I'm fine," he said too quickly, and took the sting out of it, lowering his voice. "Long day. Your line about stealing the feeling was good." Silence settled, not unfriendly, just unsure. "I should crash," she said gently. "Early call. I'll send a better line in the morning."
"Your lines are fine," which was true, and also not what he meant. "Night, Theo. Night." He hung up and immediately wished he'd said the thing instead of holding it like a hot plate. But pride is a stubborn angle. He sent Bridge 8 again with a second caption, mid-span, patient water, as if doubling the work could quiet the noise. Ava. She sat on the hotel bed with her shoes still on and scrolled the gallery account by habit. The photo stopped her. Her, laughing, Rowan leaning in, the intern's caption all sparkle and implication. She winced. She typed to Theo, "Intern just posted a dumb pic with singer. Caption's flirty. I'm not." I shut it down. Promise. She hovered, then deleted promise, because it felt too defensive. She sent, "Saw a post. Caption was silly. It was just a press corner." No dots. A minute. Then, "Got it. I'm just tired." A beat later, "Talk tomorrow." She swallowed. She wasn't wrong to explain. He wasn't wrong to be quiet. It was just two people trying not to hurt each other with the wrong reading of an hour. At 10:41 p.m., the coordinator texted, "Permits shifted. B-roll in Philadelphia tomorrow night. Market Street Bridge, 9:45. Ava almost laughed from nerves. She typed, "We're back in Philly tomorrow. Market Street at 9:45. Can you steal 20? Dots. Yes. East Side. I'll be there." She exhaled and lay back on the unkind hotel pillow, the ceiling grainy with sleep she wasn't getting yet. Chapter 9. Caption corrected. Theo. He jogged the last half block, breath fogging. Market Street flung its lights at the river like it was trying to be generous. When he saw her, relief outran dignity. He raised a hand, she raised hers back. Up close, the alley noise in his head eased. He said, "Hi." She said, "Hi," and a strand of hair lifted at the exact wrong time, making them both smile. They stood with the bridge beneath them and the past behind them, and all the ways forward waiting to be named. "About that photo," she said first, almost whispering. He was friendly, flirty even. I stepped back, the angle lied. The caption was written by an intern who loves a wink. I should have told you sooner. He let the words sit in the air until they felt like words and not weapons. I saw it and wrote a novel in my head, then pretended it was journalism.
She huffed a laugh. My job is literally stopping people from doing that. I'm not proud of it. Jealousy isn't my favorite color. Not mine either, she said softly, but I don't want us to pretend we're made of marble. If something pinches, we say it. No guessing. Deal, he said, and he meant it. A coordinator's voice carried from down the span. 5 minutes, then we roll. Ava glanced, then turned back to him. For what it's worth, he was the sort of crush you have on a playlist, not a person. I like a person. Singular. It hit him in the exact place he'd felt small earlier and made it human again. I'll try to be better with the posts. Maybe muting the gallery isn't the worst idea. Or we keep it simple, she offered. If something looks sideways, we ask each other first. I'll send you context before the internet can. Context before internet, he repeated, spoken softly, just loud enough to hear. I can live with that. He pulled the battered receipt scrap from his wallet, the one he'd recopied after the original fell apart, and pressed it into her hand. For the box of truths. She smoothed the soft edges with her thumb. You really kept it. I really did. They stepped to the railing while the crew framed a wide shot. Traffic hummed underfoot. The river wore the city's jewelry well. He opened his notebook, habit now, and sketched quick. 2 small figures at midspan. Bridge 9, he murmured. 2 people correcting a caption. I'll write the real one, she said. Not intimate, just in frame. He laughed, tension finally letting go of his shoulders. Better than emojis. 2 minutes, the coordinator called. We'll need the span clear. They walked toward the east landing. He didn't want the moment to escape without a present tense promise. I want the version of us where we ask, he said, where we ruin fewer hours by assuming. Same, she said. I'd also like the version where we keep Sundays for cinnamon rolls. That can be arranged, he said. My hours are feral this fortnight, but I can promise showing up. Good, she said, because I meant what I said at the bakery. No disappearing. Not doing that, he said, and squeezed her hand once before letting it go. They reached the landing. The crew waved a cheerful apology as they reset a tripod. He felt suddenly foolish about the photo, and then grateful to be allowed to be foolish in front of her, and still be there. Tomorrow? He asked, a little shy now. Tomorrow, she said. He jogged toward the corner, then looked back. Text me your room member, he added, cheeks coloring. Not to use, just to know where you are on a map. Okay, she said, smiling in that way that made room under his ribs. I'll send you a better line. His phone buzzed before he made the turn. He glanced down. Bridge 9 attached? She'd written. He sent the sketch with a caption. Not a detour, just bad framing. She laughed out loud. The river kept a little of the sound for itself.
Chapter 10. Present Tense. Theo.
At 4:42 a.m., the city felt penciled in, waiting for color. Theo signed out, shouldered his duffel, and carried a small wrapped parcel he'd sanded smooth the night before. A palm-sized wooden box that fit in his hand like a promise. Dawn at the bakery, he texted. Dawn, Queen Street, she sent back. He reached the corner window to find warmth already collecting behind the glass, cinnamon and light. He ordered 2 Americanos and claimed their table. When the bell chimed, he stood up too fast and nearly bumped it with his hip. Ava, he said, almost whispering. Hi, she said, and laughed in that breathy way people do when their nerves tilt toward joy. Drops glittered on her hair from the damp air. He wanted to touch one, and didn't. They sat, knees brushing once, and then again when neither of them moved away. They both said, then smiled, embarrassed and pleased, the way you do when the room you've wanted finally opens its door. You first, he said, lowering his voice. She shook her head, cheeks warming. No, you. He nudged the parcel across the table. For the box of truths, so the receipt scrap has somewhere kinder to live. She peeled the paper slowly, like she was unwrapping a delicate sound. The wooden box caught the morning, dovetailed corners neat and sure. Inside, he'd lacquered a thin pencil line, 2 arches meeting. Her fingers trembled as she traced the lid. When she looked up, her eyes were too bright to be just morning. You made this, she said, her voice trembling. Hands and hours, and a little hope. She reached for him without thinking, fingertips landing on his wrist, light as a note held between verses. He felt the exact place her touch found him and had to study his breath. I brought something too, she said, letting him go reluctantly. She slid a bundle of index cards from her bag, rubber-banded and scuffed. Your captions, my lines. I started keeping them. I thought we could keep the rest together. He swallowed. The room changed temperature by 0.5 degree. That sounds like us. The cups warmed their hands. Neither of them was good at stillness now. She set the wooden box between them as if it belonged there, then brushed crumb sugar from his sleeve, flushing at her own boldness. He slid his palm, slow and obvious, to the table's middle. Her hand met it halfway. Warm, a little shaky, terrifying in the best way. She said, I said yes to the next feature, but with Philly as home base. I want to travel out and come back. She wet her lip, nerves and certainty running shoulder to shoulder. I want to come back to you. He blinked once, trying to play it cool and failing in an honest way. I can offer long nights and decent coffee and the sort of shelves that don't fall down. He swallowed. I can offer showing up. I don't need marble. I want you. That's the sentence.
His thumb moved over her knuckles, careful and sure. The smallest tremor went through her. She laughed at herself, a little shy sound. I'm not usually this, she gestured vaguely, teenage. Same, he said, grateful for the bridge of humor. I'll try to keep my cool better than my hands. They traded a few practicalities, Sundays for cinnamon rolls, 10 at 10 if a job steals the light, no vanishing, context before internet, but every detail arrived between touches, the back of his fingers against her wrist, the brief press of her knee, his palm covering hers when a burst of laughter from the counter startled her. The agreement felt less like terms and more like a set of rails laid in the direction they were already going. Come see something? He asked, when the cups held only warmth. They walked the block to the small stone bridge over the canal. The city lifted in pale bands. A trolley bell announced itself like a polite guest. He stopped at midspan and turned to face her. She stepped in closer than conversation requires, breath hitching in the cool. This is Bridge 1, he said softly, the first I drew for you. I know, she said, as if the drawing were still in her bones. Her hands moved and then paused like birds not sure of their landing place. He solved it, slow, asking with his eyes before his fingers framed her face. She nodded, a faint, quick tilt. He leaned in, and she rose the smallest bit on her toes. The kiss started light, curious, careful, and then remembered them. Her hand slid to his jacket, clutching for a second like she needed proof he was a real thing. He pulled her in, still gentle, not letting the world fall away so much as settle into the right distance. When they parted, they didn't go far. She rested her forehead against his and laughed, shaky with relief. Okay, she said, spoken softly,
just loud enough to hear. That helps. He rested his forehead to hers, a little breathless. I've been dreaming about this. It's even better than I remember. She bumped his shoulder, the old rhythm returning, like a song they still knew. What now? Come see my place, he said, lowering his voice. 5 minutes over the canal, above the bike shop. It's small and quiet. We can close the door and let the morning be ours. Color rose in her cheeks, her fingers tightened around his. I have a bag to pack later, she said, a little breathless. But I have this morning. Good, he said, and stole one more small kiss. Quick, giddy, the kind that makes people look younger and truer. Cinnamon rolls to go then, and we disappear? Deal. They walked back toward Queen Street, their hands finding each other easily, not hiding it, not naming it, simply using what they'd been given. In the bakery window, their reflections overlapped, 2 figures close enough to read as one. Ava slipped the wooden box into her bag and squeezed his fingers. Present tense, she said. Present tense, he agreed. The bell chimed as they went in. Somewhere behind the counter, a song queued up that wasn't quite the national and didn't need to be. He kissed the corner of her smile. There, in the warm ordinariness of morning, no myth required, and the day clicked into place around the simplest truth they knew. They had found each other, and they were staying. If this story kept you company, tap like and subscribe for more full-length, free romance audiobooks. Share your favorite moment in the comments. We love reading them.